Welcome to your December 2024 Vedic Astrology update. I am so glad that you're here. Coming to the close of the year, and there's an anticipation about what's happening next, 2025, but we're still in a lot of review. We're looking in the rear view mirror as we've got a lot of retrograde energy coming into this month. There'll be a big turning point around mid-month that'll really start to clear the air, and we'll get a sense of what it is that our heart even desires for the year to come, what our soul is calling us to. But sometimes we have to gather the information from looking over our shoulder before we can look ahead. Hi, I'm Prema, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't subscribed, you can go ahead and click that subscribe button. I so appreciate it. It really helps to get the message out here on YouTube. I also would love to invite you to get the free chart calculator, to get the Sacred Wealth Code quiz. All the links are down below. And of course, if you really do want to see what's coming up for you this next year, have me look deeply into your chart, all the transits, so you know when to really expand and run ahead, and when you know it's time to lean back and reevaluate things for what you are really wanting to be successful with this next year. Then click the link down below to book a reading with me. We start the month with a new moon in Scorpio at 15 degrees in Anya Nakshatra. I will create a new moon update for you. So I'm just going to give you the short story here. The moon, of course, being our great nurturer, our queen, is debilitated here in the sign of Scorpio. That means it is not at its strongest. It's more of a looking at things below the surface. Mercury retrograde is close by in Jyestra, and it's really going to have us sort of returning to some matter, some unfinished business related to wherever Scorpio falls in your chart. Remember, Scorpio is our natural 8th house of the zodiac. The 8th house is a place of transformation, but for you it means something in particular depending on what house Scorpio is for you. The chart calculator also gives you a guide to your chart, which will help you to understand which house is which for you. But this new moon is always, like a new moon going to start a new chapter. It is a new beginning, but we need to revisit some things before we actually forge ahead. So this will be a very powerful new moon as far as that goes. There's the things we need to resolve. We have to go inside. Your heart knows the way. We need to be able to really tune in to help that resolution happen. But also, in the retrograde energy that we're in, to be able to reflect on, to look at and see where we've come from, what's the information that from the past that is going to help us what information that we can understand from the past will help us to move forward. So powerful new moon, of course, for setting your intentions, but it is going to be a very internal time as far as it being a new moon, a dark moon, being in Scorpio, dealing with things below the surface. Venus, our great connector, will be transiting Capricorn from December 1st through the 28th. And Venus has been in Sagittarius, which is a fiery sign, and it's been in a beautiful exchange with Jupiter, and it's brought some more connectivity into our relationships, and helping us to have more of that bigger vision like Sagittarius can do. And now that it's moving into Capricorn, it'll be more serious. It's Capricorn is this place where we're really at hard work, we're focused, it's determination, we're achieving our goals. And Venus is connectivity, it's love, it's wealth, and so it's going to also be opposite Mars, which is going retrograde on the 6th. I'll get to that, in Cancer. So this can make us just more serious about our relationships and about our wealth and about our money. It can bring us down to the practicality of relationships. When we get too practical and too serious, we tend to squeeze out the joy from relationships. Relationships fall under the area of life of a kama. In Sanskrit, kama in Vedic astrology, which means the fulfillment of our desires. And those are relationship placements because we tend to fulfill our desires with other people, in the company of other people. So we're going to want to watch that seriousness. It's totally fine to get practical about things, and sometimes we really do need to get practical in relationships, but remember to take the time to make that heart connect. We have to remember why we are in relationship, why we are relating, and not get too picky about relationships. This is very good for our organization around the future, around our wealth for the future. If you don't know what your Sacred Wealth Code is and what your Sacred Wealth Code archetype, you can get one free archetype. There's 3 to 5 in each one, in everyone's Sacred Wealth Code, depending on your chart. It's where your purpose and prosperity planets are placed, how they intersect. It's a whole system that I've come up with. I have my Sacred Wealth Code book available on my website and Amazon, and all the oracle cards you're always seeing are part of the Sacred Wealth Code. There's a journal as well. But if you'd like to know what one of your archetypes is, the link to the Sacred Wealth Code archetype quiz is down below. And of course, you can always get a Sacred Wealth Code reading, and the link is down there below as well. So wealth is very important to all of us. Wealth is what we need to fulfill our purpose. That's how it's set up. All the wealth houses follow the purpose houses in Vedic astrology. So it's a good time to take a look at, what are we planning? What are we organizing for our futures, not only in our relationships, but in our wealth, because Venus has a lot to do with our wealths. We tend to be more realistic, I can say that, and about things in relationship and money in this placement. So it's okay to be practical and realistic, but let's also not go into that place of scarcity, whether it's about love or around money. So pay attention to that. Okay, Mars is going to be going retrograde on the 6th. Now, Mars is currently in Cancer. It has been in Cancer, debilitated, since October 21st, and it's going to stay there for quite a while. In fact, it'll be actually in Cancer until the 20th of January, and then it'll retrograde back into Gemini. Where's my honorable warrior? We've got our great honorable warrior. Mars energy is going to be retrograde, but it's debilitated in Cancer. So it's this really interesting time. It's not even going to move from, it won't get to Leo until June, okay, of 2025. So we have 6 more months of Cancer Mars energy and some Gemini Mars energy as well. It will retrograde on the 6th at 12 degrees. So if you have planet at 12 degrees of Cancer, 11, 13, a degree on either side, or in Capricorn, this will be, a little bit more poignant for you. So you'll just want to be aware that there can be a bigger shift for you. But it's a shift for all of us in one way or another. Cancer is a sign of home and family, and it's where we're very loyal. And the honorable warrior is not comfortable here. The warrior doesn't belong at home, so to speak. The warrior Mars likes to be productive, likes to be passionate about things, wants to move forward, wants to conquer it. And it's a very masculine energy. So it's more subdued in this placement of Cancer, and we don't always feel like we can get things done the way we want to. It encourages us, and there is a door open, and I want to encourage you to move more from our feminine side, more from the heart. Cancer is very much a feminine sign. So this leading from our hearts is a more receptive quality. It doesn't mean we don't do anything, but we want to be open, okay? And we want to be able to open to receive information. Mars gives us a chance in this placement to really dig deep and sort of really understand both the masculine and the feminine expressions of power. We can see that shadow side where we just want to act, and we feel kind of stifled in that. We don't want to be in a place of confronting and attacking. That's more the shadow masculine. We want to be able to be grounded and receptive to our hearts, to the information, to what we need to listen and understand from others, and then move from the inside out, move from the heart once we're receptive and we take what we need. Now, as far as information goes, but this is a very watery placement, and it's very empathetic. And again, this is a place Mars is not comfortable, and that's why it's debilitated here. But it's always good for something. Everything we go through, every place a planet is, every challenge and initiation in your life, everything is good for something. We just need to know what it's good for. So this is where we don't want to get caught in our emotions. We want to be able to honor our emotions, but not get caught. And when I say get caught, that's where we get reactive and we feel emotional instability. it would be good to actually lean into being a little more logical here, because we can tend to be way on the emotional side as far as Mars goes with this placement, and not that logical strategic thinking like Mars is used to. So focus on being a little more in the logical, a little more in the strategical, and a little less in the emotional side. Trust me, you won't be squeezing all your emotions out. You will have plenty of them. You want to manage your emotions so they don't manage you. I teach this both in my membership and also in my solutionary mastermind. We, especially as empaths, and I know a lot of you are, or when we're dealing with this empathetic energy, we can just get caught in sort of the roller coaster of emotions. We want to be able to manage our emotional energy. That means we actually can choose how we feel. And that's a big part of conscious creation, right? We want to create the feelings of what it is that we have a clear intention about, because when we marry the two of those, a clear intention with the emotional frequency, the actual frequency, the vibration of, how we want to feel, and that's where we're in that alignment. So we don't want to get sort of battered around by the reactivity of our emotions. Now, there will be things that come up during this time that are coming up for healing. So if you do find yourself caught, you need to dig in and do the shadow work, meaning you need to find out what it is that you're feeling, what's the beliefs that are driving it. You need to shift those beliefs around. Let's just also do that work in all of my programs. Cancer wants us to have these more creature comforts. And so we want to give ourselves at home and family and that connectedness and that feeling of comfort. But Mars also rules in general, not only our productivity, but it rules like property and, home, like literally like our home and property and real estate and sales and things like that. So knowing that this is where some of the areas where we can find ourselves having disagreements about, Mars likes to fight on the shadow side. So watch out for those fights within family, within relationships, but also over, sort of home and property type situations. Instead, find something to get productive around at home. Pick a project, something, have some patience with it. Take the time to connect with the people that you love. Find something of commonality to connect over. Of course, all your grounding practices. I always say Mars needs to sweat. You need to be disciplined. Your chanting, your yoga, lifting weights, getting out for a walk, a hike in nature. Find something that helps you to have that steady rhythm. Music can be very, very helpful too, so that you don't find yourself erupting. We need to be able to keep our energy nice and steady during this time. December 7th and 8th, Venus in Capricorn is going to be conjunct with Pluto. It's just a couple of days, but this is a bit of a volatile energy. Pluto is pretty cathartic, likes to bring in a shift, likes to bring in a change, and also can really lead to power struggles. So I want to invite you to be a little bit more cautious around December 7th and 8th as far as relationships go, about what you choose to, have a conversation about. Choose your battles wisely. Let's put it that way. Okay, take a chill pill. Stay nice and grounded on those couple of days, and do something that Venus is something very Venusian that's grounding. Maybe get into your creative energy. Okay, during that time. We will have a full moon in Taurus in Mrigashira Nakshatra on December 15th. Another full moon that's right at the last degrees, at 29 degrees of Taurus. The moon is exalted in Taurus, and it's just at that very tail end of Mrigashira. This is at the same time as the sun is just going to be at the very tail end of Scorpio and moving into Sagittarius. So these are just very interesting how we've had these full moons that are just, right at the end of one sign. And so the later degrees of signs tend to be more evolved at some level. So it's just a really interesting energy. Now, this is going to be a full moon with Jupiter. I will do a full moon update for you. But there's a really big shift in the month here. This is a big turning point. It's a new beginning, even though we look at new moons as being a new beginning. But the second half of the month is really there's going to be a lot of improvement. It is going to be before we have Mercury go direct. Okay, so it's this culmination point where a lot of information is going to culminate. We're going to start to get some clarity. I'll talk about that in just a moment with Mercury, but then we'll be able to move forward and feel like there's just more clarity for where we're going next. The sun, which is our great leader, of course, is going to transit Sagittarius from December 15th through January 13th. Remember, the sun is your individuality. It represents the soul. It's our sovereignty. It's our self-esteem, really your personal agency. And this is a placement that's very good for the sun. The sun likes to be in Sagittarius. This is Jupiter's sign, which brings a lot of hope. It brings wealth. It brings optimism. It brings the big picture. Remember, Jupiter is our great teacher. It's also a great visionary and likes to bring in the big picture. So being able to pull back and reconnect with what our big vision is very, very useful. And I know that, we tend to like to plan out the next year, get a sense of what the next year will be. This will be the turning point to start to open us up to what the next year will be, what we can see for ourselves. I mean, I see already what the transits are. I'm going to bring you the transits. We can look at those for your chart. We want you to also be able to connect with what is the vision for you. What do you want to do with your work in the world? What are you tired of saying, yeah, I'm going to get to that this year? Are you really going to get to it? Well, this will open the window and help you to be able to get a sense of what that vision is. We'll be higher up the mountain, so to speak. You'll be able to reconnect with some more of your spiritual teachings. Let's remember, we want to work from that energy from the inside out. It'll be good for travel, educational pursuits, really anything that's good for your personal growth. And again, to start that plan for 2025. So this is be a great transit for us with the sun in Sagittarius. Mercury has been retrograde and it'll be going direct on December 15th. But let's talk about the retrograde a little bit more first. It is retrograding in Scorpio. It is across the chart from, again, Jupiter. So we've got the great communicator, the merchant, which rules business. Mercury rules the business quarter, it rules business, as well as our communication. And then again, directly across the chart from the teacher, the visionary, Jupiter. Now that's a good aspect. We also have Saturn aspecting from Aquarius that brings a bit of a seriousness. And Mercury is just not comfortable in this placement of Scorpio. Scorpio being that feminine sign of Mars. It's, again, emotional waters. It's cold emotional waters. In fact, it's the water in the form of ice. It's fixed water. So we have to be careful of being really stuck in Scorpio, but at the same time, it creates a lot of loyalty and stability. Mercury evaluates things. The great communicator is evaluating. Business is, evaluating things. It's very logical minded and likes to think, and it's very clear in its thinking, but not when it's retrograde here. So we have to really be managing our minds until the 15th of the month. Mindfulness, grounding, presence, but also what are the stories you're telling yourself? What are the stories that are coming up from the past? What's happening in front of your eyes? What interactions are you having that you're making up a story about? That's some of the stuff we have to work with when it comes to Mercury. That's why I do a lot of clearing processes, teach that, and have them available, again, in my membership, my Sacred Wealth Collective, as well as my mastermind. And I do that in personal sessions, of course, as well. Mercury is in this placement also not so great for getting clarity about business moves and finances. So those things may be not moving the way you would like them to move. And instead, you're going to want to allow the information to come forth during the retrograde. I mean, I'm starting a podcast, I'm starting a TV show, and I was going to be launching before this time. And with the retrograde energy, I am not. There's just been things that have come up that have bumped out the timeline, which also happens. So just because something gets bumped out doesn't mean you're not meant to do it. Divine timing, not all time is created equal. So sometimes there's information coming in and we don't have all the information yet. And then, we'll be able to move forward. So I'll be starting my podcast in January. I'll be telling you more all about that, but I'm super excited about that. So on the 15th, it will go direct. And that's the same day that the sun is leaving Scorpio. So whatever you're working on, and also this is the same day that we've got that we've got the full moon. Okay, so a lot happening right at mid-month. Okay, so whatever you've been working on that's connected to Scorpio, eighth house transformation. But again, is this your third house of brothers and sisters and communications? Is this your 10th house of career and business? Is this your fourth house of home and family and property? Whatever that house represents for you is where you are reevaluating, and in fact is going to be in its retrograde cycle, all in water constellations for this next year. Okay, every time it retrogrades this next year, water constellations, those are specific for you, either purpose houses, wealth houses, relational houses, or they are spiritual houses. And you will be taking a closer look at that element of life through every retrograde for this next year. And again, I talk about that in your personal readings. It's the gift of Mercury retrograde. So we'll be able to start to move forward on the things we've been revisioning and rethinking. Information will be in, by this middle of the month here, you will start to have some clarity. And usually when Mercury goes direct, we don't want to do those important things or sign anything really important on the 14th, 15th, 16th, the days right around the retrograde, going retrograde or direct, and when it went retrograde on the 25th, the 24th, the 25th, 26th. We just want to avoid those pieces of time because that's when it's most wonky, is during those times. Venus transits Aquarius on December 28th. So it's moved all the way through Capricorn in the month of December, and it'll be moving into Aquarius from the 20th of December to January 27th, and it's going to be joining its friend. Where's my friend? It's going to be joining our great administrator in Capricorn. That's our great Saturn, and of course it'll be Venus and Saturn together, our great connector. And this is where, this is Aquarius. Aquarius is this placement, social placement, where it's very innovative. We get a higher ideal around the social fabric of the world, our social purpose. So we'll be getting more of sort of a mountain high world view here, instead of being in that sort of nitty gritty of commitment and focus and, around relationships and money like we were through the most of the month. We'll be looking at the needs of our relationships and the needs for ourselves and of our partners, and are they met? We're going to take a little bit more of a global view in relationships. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be any seriousness, because let's face it, it is with Saturn. Saturn is a taskmaster. Saturn is one of the most spiritual planets. It's also the great organizer in the Sacred Wealth Code system, and Saturn is the planet of truth or consequences. And when we are not truly on our purposeful path, Saturn tends to trip us up. Saturn will make us go through those falls, those challenges, those initiations to help wake us up to the truth, wake us up to our true path. We were not here to walk anybody else's path but our own. Mars is going to aspect this with an 8th aspect. Before, it was aspecting with a 7th aspect in Capricorn, creating a bit of push-pull energy. And here it'll be the 8th aspect, and which is not as push-pull, but still it can bring a little bit of a worry kind of energy in. So we just want to watch that. You're going to want to rely in relationships more on the wisdom that Saturn, the great organizer, the great administrator, has brought you through the experiences that you have. Remember, we were talking about wisdom is knowledge experienced. So the knowledge that you have gained by the life that you have walked, the trials and tribulations, the challenges that you have had, the experiences, what were the lessons from? What did you learn? And this is what Saturn wants you to step into and use that wisdom now in moving forward. Looking over our shoulders and looking back and all this retrograde energy is useful to understand where we've come from, what we have learned. Now let's use that and apply that to the future. It will also invite us into using very, very good boundaries. As I teach in my boundaries module and all my programs, boundaries are not walls to keep others out. Boundaries are rule sets you set up for yourself, and you make your choices accordingly. You are in charge of your own energy. And when you hold really healthy boundaries, where you're really honoring yourself and honoring others, then you're going to create different kinds of relationships. Sometimes that does mean saying goodbye to a relationship. But what you say no to, you're saying yes to, or opening a yes door to something else. So at the end of January, Venus is going to move into Pisces for 4 months. Venus is exalted in Pisces. I'm not going to get too far ahead, but it's going to do its retrograde cycle there. So that is going to be a very exciting time. So our next transit is the new moon in Sagittarius in Purva Ashada on December 30th at 15 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is, again, almost at New Year's Eve, okay? I'm probably going to be bringing you something that you can jump into around visioning for the new year, so stay tuned for that. But this is going to be a beautiful time to have that and to doing that because, of course, it's a new moon, and new moon is when we are tuning into, what is next and restarting. But of course, this is restarting a whole year. This I will do an update for, but understand this is a time that's, because it's Sagittarius, again, it's good for long distance travel, and especially like, spiritual or learning type travel. A new path is going to open up for some people. And, this is good for spending time with, friends and with family, and also good for, again, some kind of journey for yourself. And that could be an inner journey, but that's for yourself as far as, your own personal growth. So this is going to be a beautiful new moon to end the year and to start the next year as well. So I'd love to hear what's coming up for you with this update today. Please leave me a comment. What are you noticing in all this retrograde energy that you've been reviewing, that you've learned, or you're bumping up with again? What's the wisdom from the experience that you have been going through that you can apply to the future? What have you learned? Or what are you currently learning? Or what are you questioning? What the heck am I learning? So that's one of the questions I have for you. Of course, if you want a reading for the new year, link is down below in the description, and let's get you on my calendar for a reading, and let's dive into all the transits for you. There's going to be, some significant shifts next year, and I've got them laid out, and we want to know how they're going to affect you so that you can start to make the overall plan for your year. Now, of course, if you want any of the Sacred Wealth Code book reading, cards, link is down below, but all the cards and book and such are available on Amazon. And if you would like to be on my inner circle, then join the Sacred Wealth Collective. And the Sacred Wealth Collective is a place where monthly I do 3 live sessions. We are doing a new moon reading and teaching, and there's lots of resources within our member site hub. I also do full moon healing circle, and you can join those at any time as well. And I also do a Q&A where I answer your questions directly for you. I also do card readings, and the membership is an amazing place to learn and grow more and join with me and really be a little more on the inside and have personal guidance. So the link is down below for the collective as well. All right. So much love to you. It's been an amazing year. I thank you for all your support, and I look forward to more time with you in the new year.